Welcome to our Out to Lunch with a Cantors edition number 3. And David, how do you feel about our guest today? What do you think?
I think we did well. It's very good to see him. I miss his face. So it's good to see him. Eyal, welcome.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you, TB. It is so nice to see your faces. I miss you guys. I miss Toronto. I miss. It's a wonderful surprise to see some of the faces that I see here. I hesitate to say some by name because I'm going to miss others, but I see you, and it fills my heart with joy and nostalgia. And I don't know if you can hear me clear from the West Coast. I'm over here in Portland,
Yeah.
Oregon. But definitely, thank you for having me. I have never been prouder to be number three.
It's better. You know what? And usually I feel like I'm the best when I'm number 10.
Uh-huh.
I walk into the show, but number
Uh,
3 is not bad.
nice.
Eyal doesn't need an introduction. He's at home at Bet Tikva. He's at home in Canada and in Toronto. Perhaps people from Holy Blossom and from the larger community might need a tiny bit of introduction, but um, Eyal had so much activity here in Toronto when he lived here. The shows he's put on, the musicals he put on, the choral work he did at Bet Tikva, and so many things that made him very popular. The lecture series that he gave over the years to the Jewish Music Week, he made him a very, very popular guy here in Toronto, and he still is. And I usually tell him, Eyal, since you left, my life hasn't been the same. And it is the truth. It is the truth. Eyal is he's the sweetest guy. Just look at him for a second. He is he's he's a he's one of the he's of course he's one of my best friends I ever had. Someone you can rely on, someone you can work with, on plan with, joke about anything basically at any time, which is very unusual. But that's who Eyal is. Very, very good sense of humor, and I'm just can't be happier to have you a little bit in Toronto today, even if it's virtually. But you know what? Let's just dig in quick because everybody knows. First of all, I wish everybody a good lunch. I can see some of you are eating. And just raise your hand if you have smoked meat sandwiches for lunch today. Anyone?
Okay.
Anyone? That would be my
But
choice.
I understand at some point during the discussion today we need to talk about French fries and maybe ice cream. Maybe if we get to there, okay? Because we have opinions on
On food, yeah, of
food.
course. I mean, you
Okay.
have 3 cantors here. I don't want to call ourselves the 3 tenors. It wouldn't be true. Actually, might
It would
be,
be true.
but I would say that 3 singing chefs. I would definitely go that way. All right, so Eyal, tell us about a little bit about your background, about you growing up,
Well,
Canada, Montreal. Oh, by the way, I'm so sorry for your loss last night. Uh,
oh, Montreal Canadiens.
uh,
You got me right where it hurts. Oh my. Anyway, this has been a lovely event. Take care. So, so you want me to talk a bit about myself? You know what? It's my favorite subject. So, so I, look, I do think that knowing where you came from informs, it shapes you, and it's nice that my parents decided to use a little bit of other spices besides salt and pepper to give me my life experience. And so I was born in Montreal, but at the age of 1, so my first memories are not from Montreal. My sister was 4 weeks old. I was a year and about a year and a half when we moved to Africa, to a country called Zaire, which is now called the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And so I grew up in Kinshasa. I remember distinctly a kid a little older than me saying, "Hey, we Canadians have to stick together." And I remember distinctly asking him why, because I had no idea what he was talking about. Being Canadian was just something that was on paper. For me, my experience was Kinshasa, the beautiful tropical. It's right on the equator. That weather, the environment, everything about that was my upbringing. And I went to an American. So my first language was French. My second language was Lingala, and my third language was English. I started learning English in first grade. I'm not going to go through every detail, but I want to reflect on something, which is that at my school, I didn't realize at the time that most of the children there were very religious Christian. Many of them were children of missionaries. Not all of them. Some of them were government. Some of them were just businessmen. And I was part of a Jewish community that was very, very small. The Jews came from all over the place, from Belgium, from South Africa, from Israel, and only a few from Canada and the States. And so I understood what it was like to be an outsider on the inside, to be exposed and still within this Jewish environment, this non-Jewish environment of Kinshasa, I had a firm sense of identity, a firm sense of Jewish identity. There was no kosher food, yet the idea of being a Jew was taught to me, from the start. And I'll tell you one brief story. In this apartment building that we lived in, with a shared courtyard, and I remember drawing, something that I really loved, Israeli warplanes. And so I drew on the fence, the shared fence, these planes with Magen Davids, and later on that day or the next day, our next door neighbor washed it off. I later understood that he wasn't quite Lebanese. He was actually the head of the PLO in Kinshasa, and he wasn't so happy with that. So my father's Moroccan. My mother's a German Jew who was born in London, England, and grew up in Canada. So I have this Ashkenazi and Moroccan background. The ritual that I was brought up with was Moroccan, and I was exposed to a synagogue from early on that was a bit of a mix of influences. And the idea that we are one people, no matter where we come from, was not taught to me, but was me from day one. And I think that that's something that has influenced me throughout my life. So that's the background. I moved to Canada when I was in grade 4, and that was my first exposure to snow and to wearing a jacket and to wearing a kippah, more than just on Shabbat. And my parents wanted to make sure that we had a richer Jewish identity and Jewish experience than we could have had in Africa. And in Montreal, they had made an amazing decision. And then and in my young adulthood, or my adulthood, I got this job in Toronto. I was a musical director for many years, and then I got a job as a choir director, as a music director at Beth Tikva Synagogue when I was I think I was 33, and that was another life changer, and that, I think many of you know the story from there. So that's I'll come up for air, TB and David, and let you talk to me, because otherwise I'll just keep going. The mistake people make to me is saying, "Hi, how are you?" and I just keep going.
Yeah, and maybe people know this already, so maybe it's more for me, but hopefully people are asking. I'm curious a bit more about your musical background and some of your musical training from a young age.
Okay, there is none. So when I was as a kid, it was all through exposure. It's all through osmosis, and I just enjoyed music. And I in grade 4, my parents, gave me some recorder lessons. 12, 13 is when.
He's breaking up.
The internet in Portland. We're having some Portland internet issues today. West Coast. Eyal, are you with us? All right, hopefully he'll come back in a second. Tibor, you're muted. There you go.
Now I'm good. Now it's working. Something bizarre is happening here. Anyway, Eyal, I see he disappeared, so probably he's coming
Log
back.
back on. Yeah.
That's right. So what are you having for lunch, David?
You know, I haven't made it yet. I usually have a salad for lunch. You know, some type of protein. I like to put fruit in my salad. I don't know if any of you put fruit in your salad, but it's a great thing to do. Grapes are great in salad. Strawberries. Just depends what you're having. You know, it's good. What about yourself?
Me, not much. We'll see after the program. Hopefully, I have to open the fridge, look around. You know, I'll find something. Nothing pre-planned. Nothing pre-planned. Nothing exciting. No pastrami sandwiches today.
Your house must be very quiet with all the kids going.
Yes, Marilyn. This house has never been so quiet before. Yeah, the kids are at camp. Eyal is back, ladies and gentlemen. Eyal,
Yes.
Can you see me with this background?
There we go. We can see
we
it.
just see you with your
You
photo.
froze at 14 years old, so there must have been something traumatic that happened to you when you were 14.
I look
Looks like your bar mitzvah picture or something.
but my Wi-Fi seemed to have my internet dropped, and I don't know what happened. So if it happens again, I will call back on my device. But right now, you know, it's on this. So
Just keep in mind, we can't send you a check after this. You know,
no problem. Not allowed to accept any other income, so that's okay.
Of course, Eyal volunteered to be here. I'm just joking. All right, let's go on.
So look, my musical background was through osmosis. When I was about 12 or so, or 13, I joined my synagogue choir. I loved music of the synagogue, and I picked up a guitar because I started.
There we go again. Now, David, you're muted.
Oh, there we go. Eyal, you're gonna have to call in on your device, I think.
Yeah, he will. Oh, he's coming in again. Let's see, where is he? Oh, I'm so sorry about this.
You're only as good as your connection. That's the new.
I'm using my device. That'll be easier.
That's okay.
Apologies about that. So with music, I got into Kiss when I was 12 or 13, the rock group. And
I thought you were saying you're a good kisser or something.
Many people would beg to differ. Very few people, actually. So I got into Kiss, the rock group, and I got a guitar, and I got into the synagogue music. I loved it. It spoke to me, and it's those two things that developed around the age of 12, 13 remained with me up until, you know, throughout my life. So musically, David, to answer your question, I was self-taught. Around 12 or so, I started learning music through, you know, and harmony through experience of being in the choir at my synagogue, and then researching more and more and more, and picking up music books here and there and learning about guitar chords and what have you. So I got self-taught. In the cantorial process, as a musical director, I'd learned music on my own, and then to make the process, the switch between being a musical director and a cantor, I took mentorship. I studied under David Nemtsov and someone named Benny Meisner. Have you heard of him?
Never heard of him.
So that's a bit of my music background. So never been formally trained, and I remember that was an issue, or presented itself as a potential issue when I interviewed for the position of musical director at Beth Tikva. When I came to my interview, I was half an hour late because I trusted the taxi system of Toronto. I was mistaken, and got to the interview portion, and so I remember this fellow, the president of the choir at the time, Jerry Calpin, asking, but if you don't, do you play piano? I was like, no. Well, how will you teach the choir? I said, well, just watch, because we had an audition, an audition afterwards, and as a chef, David, you may want to have specific ingredients for a particular dish, but sometimes you have to go with the ingredients that you have in your pantry.
Very true.
Or your fridge, and then you make the best with that. So would I have been a different musician, a different musical director had I had formal training? Probably, but I made do with the tools that I had.
Great. And from talking to Tibby, we were talking about it earlier before the show today. The amount of music that you arranged and produced at Beth Tikva is quite remarkable. Many new, not only your own compositions, but new arrangements and spicing things up. Maybe you can say, and Tibby, maybe you want to say a word about it as well. Some of your compositions and things that you were able to do there over the years.
So if I could just comment 1 second, if I could comment on it, like we had in our repertoire before in the choir repertoire, I came almost at the same time at Beth Tikva with Eyal. Eyal was there first, and I came maybe a month later or so. And the choir had in its repertoire about maybe 550 pieces of music, close to 600, which is a very impressive number of choral pieces. And Eyal came in and he took this number close to 1,000 with beautiful compositions, some very traditional. He brought in stuff from the Sephardi background, and I'll let him speak about that. And also his original compositions, which I really enjoyed that and enjoy them now. I'm still singing them in the synagogue, and the choir still enjoys them. And each time we sing them, we think of you, by the way. Okay, so tell us a little bit of that. Or I gave it away all.
Thank you, Tibi. It's very nice to hear that. It really is. Some people write just for themselves, and I think very few people do that. I think most people want their songs to be heard. It's like, if a tree falls in the forest, does anybody, I forget what the expression is, but if a song is written, but it's not sung, does it exist? And it needs to be sung, and it needs to be communicated. It's a form, it's a way of having an impact on someone else. And so to hear that you're still doing some of them is very heartwarming. And I've heard that from one or two of the choir members, and every time I do, it's very sweet. I don't, looking back at some of the compositions, I'm you always think that you're writing something that's I don't want to say brilliant, but that'll last, or this is good, this is going to work. And then you realize, oh well, here's what's good about it, but here's why this is not timeless. You have to find things, it's tricky to find something that's going to last a long time. And styles change as well. And I remember writing this one piece that I would never have written in Montreal years ago. And I was exposed to the na-na-na-na-nais of Ashkenazi music a little more at Beth Tikva. And some of these nigunim that were traditional and that Cyril Irving Glick had arranged or composed, and he made use of that quite a bit. I was like, oh, let me channel a bit of that and a bit of Karlabach and write an En Kilohenu that's sort of upbeat. And I had that, yeah.
I if you would like me, I could play it for everyone to listen.
Please.
But I want you to, like, every time, well, not every time, I shouldn't say that, but very often when I'm singing an Eyal piece, I can hear his rock influence in his music. So even in this music, if you think about it a little bit, that that sounds like an overdrive guitar or something like that, electric guitar that goes in the background. Let me try to find this quickly. Eyal was actually offering to share music with us, but he's on his device now. So I'm going to do this.
Thank you, T.
For everyone to I don't know. Let me try this again because I don't think I shared it as a video clip. Sound optimize. If you can't hear it, please signal to me and we'll try to fix it. Ein Keloinu by Eyal Bitton. Can you see it and hear it?
Yes, listen small.
Hey, Keloinu, hey, Kadonenu, hey, Kemalkenu, hey, Kemoshienu, Micheloinu, Michadonenu, Michemalkenu, Michemoshienu, no dele loenu, no dele adonenu, no dele malkeinu, no dele moshienu, Baruch Eloenu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu sheiktiru Aboteinu, Lefanecha et ketoret hasamim.
Yay. That's
Thank you.
definitely a favorite at Bet Tikva. People love singing along with this one.
Thank you, TB. And you sing it so beautifully as always. You know, you sing everything beautifully. I'm in great company with you and David here. Yeah, so that one's, you know, I didn't think I was gonna. I believed in the song, but it's not high level, you know, chamber music. It's not sophisticated music, but it does the trick, and it speaks to today's desire by congregations to sing along, and many congregants don't show up every week. So to learn something on the spot, if you're going to bring something new, you don't always have to do it, but having it be something that they can learn right away is helpful. And so that did that. So yeah, writing, you know, I brought in a few Sephardic or Moroccan songs here and there. Not too many, I think, because, you know, I still had to deal with a liturgy that was an Ashkenazi liturgy, and still had to address a congregation that, you know, the vocabulary that they had, which was primarily Ashkenazi. So, you know, I brought in what I also tried to do is try to arrange music that we were already doing, so that the congregation didn't feel as removed, you know, as here's a choir piece. It's more about, here's a piece that we always do with the choir. So that was a bit of my attitude. Yeah. So you know, I never think about having added so much music to the synagogue, but you mentioned that to me, and it's I don't know if it's a great thing or not. I certainly was passionate about Jewish music, and I'm certainly passionate about synagogue, and I'm certainly passionate about trying to find ways for connection with our communities. And I think as Cantors, so here's something that I think I'd like to mention, that as you know, as Cantors, our primary way of connecting with our congregants is through music, and it's a fundamental way. It's a very important way. You know, I always say, look, why music? You tend to remember En Keloheinu, En Kadonenu from when you were 10 years old, and you don't remember the rabbi's sermon when you were 10 years old. And I'm not putting the rabbi down. I'm trying to say, how are you
how is a person reached at a fundamental level? What speaks to the soul of a person, and to the subconscious even? And we when we talk to babies, to our children, before they have the ability to speak, to use language, we sing to them. We sing lullabies, and we also talk to them in a sing-song way. So it's fundamental. But besides that, I think that we cantors, as congregations change and as synagogues and communities change, I think we need to, I don't want to say redefine ourselves, but increase and elaborate on what our role is. And our role is to have our congregants connect to prayer and ritual. And there are different ways to do that. We don't have to only do it through music. We can do it through lectures, through teaching, through creative videos, and that we have now, these tools that we have. And there are all kinds of creative ways that are out there that we need to think about, that are not just musical, although music is part of them. And we're in an amazing position that other people, that other clergy don't have. So anyway, I'll let you talk, and then I'll address that.
I have a question, Eyal. You mentioned, what synagogues are wanting these days, or how things are differing. I'm curious, just your thoughts and opinions. Hopefully, our audiences as well. Having recently served a congregation in the States, and understanding that Judaism in Canada and in the U.S. is very different, and you are serving a conservative congregation. So would you maybe just speak a little bit to some of the nuances or differences that you've found since being at your pulpit?
That is an amazing question, and one that that's an amazing question. And you and I kind of briefly touched upon this in an email exchange when we talked about how when you were moving back to Canada. There's a lot to learn about. There's a lot of positive about the States and innovation and change. It is. I'd say that American congregations musically, and even in other ways, not just musically, but in terms of prayer, have moved more, are less traditional perhaps than Canadian ones. And that doesn't just mean negative. It doesn't mean, hey, we lost something here in the States. It also is willingness to have innovation, to have new music, to have new ways of looking at prayer, to have changes to prayer, the ability to look at the service and go, hey, what are we cutting from this? What? We're cutting things? It's not just for the sake of cutting it. It's what is going to make our congregation connect to this in a deep way and understand it. So I have found that there's a larger cross section in the congregations that I'm in here in the States, where you have the members of the congregation that are traditionalists or are more familiar with the language of prayer, and others that aren't, and younger people who aren't. And how do you connect to them? So it's not just ignorance; it's also a difference in mentality, and then there's a difference of experience. The music that we're exposed to on the West Coast, on the East Coast, and include Toronto, and at the East Side, Toronto, Montreal, isn't the same music. There's crossover, but it's not, what dominates on the West Coast is a little bit more of this, perhaps reform influenced music, more Debbie Friedman, more Craig Taubman, and others like that. So there's a bit of that, and the other thing is Israel. I know that fundamentally the majority of American Jews feel a deep connection with Israel. I would say that the knowledge, the active connection, generally speaking, and certainly with the community that I'm in now, the active connection with Israel is less than in Toronto, less active, less strong. And I don't want to throw my community under the bus, but I would say that's true. So, for example, one small example is my first concert that I did here at Neve Shalom. I was doing at one point Yerushalayim Shel Zahav as a song, right? Yerushalayim Shel Zahav Shel Nechoshet V'Shelo. At one point, I turned it over to the audience to sing along with me. I just stopped singing, and you know what? There were very few people singing, and they didn't know it as well as Montreal and Toronto audiences, and that was a shocker to me. And I don't know that was your experience, David, where you were. I would imagine that they knew that better than they do here. That might be more of a West Coast, East Coast thing. But this is when I was asked about, when I was interviewed for my job here at Neve Shalom, I was asked sort of like, what do I bring to the table, or what are my strengths? And I said, how do I see my job is finding ways, and I think it's the same with the both of you in different ways. It's how do you find ways for your congregation? How do you find ways for your congregation to connect to prayer and through music? And so I might have been singing more of song A in Toronto. Here I've got to go, okay, they need a little more of song B. So I'm not sure if that's a great answer or an okay answer for you, David. And I'm curious to know, how much of that answer was the case for you, and how much of it is not.
There are definitely, I think you did answer the question, and there are definitely also East Coast, West Coast differences.
Yeah.
Within the States. My experience being in an East Coast congregation in New York was a little bit more on the traditional side than some of the Western Reform communities that I know of and what they do. Having said that, it's interesting you use your example of Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, and I think I would have had a similar experience had I sang Yerushalayim Shel Zahav and turned to the congregation to sing. Not that they don't know it, but the connection and identity to Israel, I don't think is as strong in certain places in the States. It's not that it's not there and it's celebrated differently in different ways, but I think that's the nature of culture in the U.S. versus Canada. Is just Canada the U.S. in general is a much more patriotic society towards America. It's America first, and I'm not saying this is as a bad thing. This is just what it is, right? And
yes.
I'm an American Jew, as opposed to in Canada, it's more I'm Jewish. I'm a Jewish Canadian. It's more from that angle. I know that's simplifying it to a great degree, but I think there's definitely more of that from that perspective. I think, yeah.
Yeah, right. And with one thing that one positive thing about this congregation, and that's not your question, but I will say that one thing is that there is a respect for the position of cantor here, and that's fantastic, because I've been given the freedom to do what I want without. I suspect if I were doing things that the congregation was very upset with, that would be another story, and people would chime in. But the liberty to kind of be myself. And there's a little bit more, I don't say a little bit more, but there is that leeway that I have felt here. I don't know if that was the case for you. And there's this, I feel that there's a need for the cantor here in this congregation, and that's fantastic, because in a time when some congregations are dropping their cantors, because of this reason or that reason, it's nice to understand, to go, okay, I'm in a community that wants what we have to offer, and that needs it. And one of the things that the cantor does at this congregation, and it's a big part of the role, is the B'nai Mitzvah. We have lots of bar and bat mitzvahs here at Neve Shalom in Portland. We're blessed that way. Lots. It's 20 to 40 or so a year. So last year we had 40 or 40 plus. During the pandemic, it was interesting. But the overseer of the program is the cantor, and that's great, because, as I said, what are we doing? We are finding ways. Our job is to make our congregants connect to the ritual and prayer of Judaism. interestingly enough, that's not the rabbi's job, and that's our job, and that's a huge honor and a huge responsibility. Anyway, so I'll let you, if there's another question or something.
Yeah, well, this, Eyal, I mean, this is getting a little too serious,
Heavy.
for a little lunch discussion.
Ah,
I would like to go to a little bit lighter fields if possible. I mean,
Yeah.
we had the opportunity to meet your lovely wife, Michelle, here in Toronto, of course, when you were here. But I
yeah,
don't think the kids were yet born when you were still in, I think,
right. Mia was
they
born. My
weren't.
daughter. My daughter Mia. Well, my wife. I'll mention my wife. My wife, Michelle Treasure. For those of you who don't know her, we met because she auditioned for me, not to be my wife. She auditioned for one of my musicals in Montreal, and she did not get the part, but she got a part, and I've never lived it down, and but I have tried to make up for it ever since. One of the things is that, look, we were I remember being on a Shabbaton as a young Jewish adult Shabbaton in my later 20s or something like this, and early 30s, and meeting this young woman from New York, actually. And I remember saying, so she says, so what do you do? And I say, so I'm a composer and a musical director. And her next question was word for word, but what do you do to make money? So I was like, oh no, this is not for me. Whereas Michelle was a performer, was a singer, was an actor, and understood what it's like to have art be part of your defining trait. So Michelle is a fabulous singer and has been an actor and has been in a few of my concerts and with UTB, as you know. And when we moved to Hamilton, I became a cantor, and I in 2009, and I started working at Beth Jacob in Hamilton. And my daughter Mia was born in 2016. She just turned 5 years old now, and there's a video I made just before the pandemic, or at the start of the pandemic, where we were singing Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, and she sings it beautifully. She sings even better now. But like with UTV, you have a very musical children, and Danielle is an amazing drummer. And when I noticed, when my daughter was like 2 and she was matching pitch, I was like, oh my gosh, she's matching pitch. These things matter to us when we're musicians. But yeah, so she's 5. My daughter Mia is 5. And then the only American in our family is my son Rafael, who was born in 2019. He will be 2 in September, just September 5th. I don't remember when Rosh Hashanah is. I think the day before Rosh Hashanah. And they bring me a lot of joy. They also, look, what I like to say as well is that I had a full head of hair before Mia was born. It's not true, but the joke works better this way. Yeah, and we just came back from Hawaii. We were just on a vacation. It was, the pandemic has been hard for everybody in different ways. And to feel normal again, those little moments that you have, hey, I was at such and such, and I had to, I got to daven without my mask on recently. Like, oh my gosh, I felt normal. I felt normal. I felt normal. Going on vacation is now possible. And we went to Hawaii, just got back a couple days ago. We feel normal. Our children still have jet lag and just got up a few minutes ago here. It's 9:40 here. But anyway, so that's a word or two about my children. Oh, one thing about my son Rafael. I mentioned my daughter being very musical. We get to the airport in Maui. My son, just the other day, right, last week, my son is in his stroller, and I swear to God, I'm pushing him, he's like this with his arms outstretched. Let it go, with his eyes closed and his arms outstretched, like he's singing the 11th hour, song on Broadway. Anyway, bit of a showman. Those are my kids right now, maybe you'll meet them, maybe they'll come out, but yeah. So that's a little bit about that. And look, to be able to be a musical family is wonderful. Yeah, they bring us a lot of joy. They bring us a lot of joy. They're tiring, but they bring us a lot of joy.
Oh, tiring for sure. You'll see when you send your kids to summer camp, it'll be like a day and night kind of a situation. You know that Ariel just left yesterday, and I have to tell you, it's so quiet, it's so peaceful around there. It's, you know what, I never experienced this. Anyway, can I play another piece of music?
Sure.
Let me find something good.
There's my Baruch Haba. Oh, there's that Baruch Haba.
No. Baruch. Oh, you want Baruch Haba? I thought maybe. Oh, because you just spoke about Michelle.
Okay.
And she's really, I mean, a wonderful singer and actor.
Yeah.
And I wonder if she's actually pursuing her dream of singing and acting in Portland. Is she able to do that there, or?
She does. We do have our green cards, and Michelle has been doing several acting gigs here and there. So she's just started to do the acting. Singing, there hasn't been much. You know, we sang in Maui. We did a performance there, but more focus on acting right now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just looking meanwhile to your Katan Aleinu, and so far I don't see it. Having a little bit of difficulty finding it.
Or look up Michelle Treasure 14G. That's another song you can do.
I got it.
I got
it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's eliminate 1 second. Skip ads. I'm stopping it here, and I'm going to share it with you in a moment. Sorry. It's just we weren't prepared for the internet.
Right, it was supposed to be controlled from mine, and I don't know what happened with my setup here.
I hope everyone will enjoy this beautiful video clip. By the way, Eyal, can you tell us about this show for a second? Because this is a really, really, really special show that this was presented in.
The Katan Aleinu?
Wasn't this the one with the very famous? Oh, maybe I'm wrong. No. Oh, that's a different song.
With a very different song.
Okay.
I will say about this song is a modern Israeli song that was written at the start of the pandemic. That Israel sort of like "We Are the World," you know, song in the sense that it's a multiple artists joined together to say, hey, we can come together and we can beat this. This is Katan Aleinu. This is small to us. We've got this, and we got this isn't just about the pandemic. It's also about any sort of challenge that comes in front of you. So, and it's a modern Israeli song, which is fabulous. And so Michelle and I recorded as a duet.
Do you expect us to know the lyrics, just like Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, or
it's the translation? The translation is in the video.
Okay. All right, here we go. Katan Aleinu.
ארץ של שמש על הים התיכון, הגלים פה לא שקטים זרמי המון. מהחול של הנגב ועד החרמון, בית חם ובו כולם אומרים שלום. מול כל מכשול וכל חידה, תקוותנו לא עבדה. מה יודי יום זו לא נדע, ועל הכל נאמר תודה. כמו שהיה, ככה יהיה, עברנו הכל, נעבור גם את זה. לא ייפלו בנינו, זה קטן עלינו. כמו שהיה, ככה יהיה, עברנו הכל, נעבור גם את זה. לא ייפלו בנינו, זה קטן עלינו. קפה במרפסת, ריחות של שבת, איך לא לנו פה אותו דבר כמעט. כל מכשול וכל חידה, עוד תקוותנו לא עבדה.
מה יודיד יום זו לא נדע, ועל הכל נאמר תודה.
כמו שהיה, ככה יהיה, עברנו הכל, נעבור גם לזה.
לא יפלו פנינו, זה קטן עלינו.
כמו שהיה, ככה יהיה, עברנו הכל, נעבור גם את זה. לא ייפלו פנינו, זה קטן עלינו.
ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור,
ארץ ישראל יפה,
השיר שסבא.
שלום, שלום, שלום על ישראל.
כחול ולבן,
ולבן,
כחול ולבן,
ולבן, מול כל מכשול וכל חידה, עוד תקוותנו לא עבדה.
מה ידליל יום זו לא נדע, ועל הכל נאמר תודה.
ככה יהיה, עברנו הכל, נעבור גם את זה. לא ייפלו פנינו, זה קטן עלינו.
כמו שהיה, ככה יהיה, עברנו הכל, נעבור גם את זה. לא יפלו פנינו, זה קטן עלינו. כמו שהיה, ככה יהיה, עברנו הכל, נעבור גם את זה. לא יפלו פנינו, זה קטן עלינו.
על הדבש ועל העוקץ, על המר והמתוק, על ליבנו התינוקת, שמור לי הטוב.
על האש המבוערת, על המים חזקים, על האיש השב הביתה מן המרחקים.
על כל
כמו שהיה, ככה יהיה, עברנו הכל, נעבור גם את זה. לא יפלו פנינו, זה קטן עלינו. כמו שהיה, ככה יהיה, עברנו הכל, נעבור גם את זה. לא יפלו פנינו, זה קטן עלינו.
לא ייפלו פנינו, זה קטן עלינו.
Bravo.
This is
Bravo,
a fun one.
bravo.
And he came in as soon as he heard his parents singing. And he said,
Raphael.
wait, tu veux dire bonjour? So, we saw Mama, we saw Papa on the video, and that made him very happy. You know, I don't know about you guys, but with seeing, and this doesn't speak to every congregant, but I think they should know this. Like when I see my children in the congregation, and I can lead services and see them there, it makes me so happy. Not just because I don't feel like I'm performing for them, but the idea that I am leading my congregation in prayer is fulfilling. But to be able to sort of impart that and to have my kids sort of be part of the community that prays together, and I'm there for that is wonderful. And I say this because, he doesn't remember before the pandemic, and so having him come once in a couple times since we reopened a bit has been for me very fulfilling. Yeah. So this is. We're not going to listen to "Let It Go" right now, and you know what? With this video that we just showed, that's something else that I would say that, like many of us, in whatever we do, but certainly in the Jewish community, we're like, okay, you're going to close our building. Okay, we can't do this, we can't do that. What can we do? How do we come together? How do we connect with each other? How do we make music? How do we still stay relevant? And how do we reach our congregation? And so I think many of us may such, these music videos a little more than we were doing before the pandemic. I would say that's the case with UTB, and I know I saw a few things with you, David, and we all went online for some more of our services, and we try to find a way, and that's the human way, and it's certainly the Jewish way. Look at problems and go, how do we navigate this, rather than how do we get defeated by it.
So, Eyal, just a quick question. How are we going to bring you back to Toronto? Tell me,
Marky's closed a few years ago, so I don't know.
You're right. There's no real good kosher deli anymore.
Right.
And it's a big problem. Do you have anything like that in Portland? Now that we shift to food, David, you can ask a question soon. Is there any good kosher deli there?
There isn't. There's a kosher kosher caterer and who also has like a cafeteria at the JCC here. And there's also about 2 years. Yeah, and about 2 years ago there was a food truck, a kosher food truck that opened up called Holy Smokes Righteous Eats, and they make a few a few sandwiches as well, and a few other things that are good, but nothing like we don't have the kind of selection that we have in Toronto or Montreal.
Yeah, I don't think we can come. I don't think we can come visit Eyal. David, we're busy. Yes,
we're very busy.
So you gotta come here.
It's all food based, huh?
We can meet in New York. We can go to Ben's.
Right. Right. We could do that. Look, being in Toronto. Look, I miss being in someplace new. Is exciting, right? There's lots of and there's lots of opportunities and all that. At the same time, being in some, you don't have these friendships that we built over the years, like I have with you and with David and with so many of the people who are here today. Not to mention the food and access to Sobeys and all these things, and just being close to my in-laws and to my parents in Montreal. Those, there's a lot that I miss about Toronto, a lot miss about Montreal. At the same time, the road takes you where it takes you, and things are good for us right now here in Portland. It's a good congregation. We have about 800 to 900 members, units, and services. They're different from what we did at Beth Tikva, and yet it's a lot of fun. And I'm able to bring in some of these Moroccan melodies as well, bring them in for Yom Kippur, and bring in my own styles and do those musical adaptations. I would also do, like to Tears for Fears or other musical adaptations like that I enjoy doing. But if I could be in more than one place at one time, that would be wonderful. I'd love to be in Toronto too. It was a wonderful experience, and we made wonderful friends, Michelle and I.
So going back to my main favorite subject, you said your favorite subject is talking about yourself, but my favorite subject is food. And one thing I know two things David has mentioned that you really love, and you are known for these two things. One is ice cream, the other one is French fries. And I'm sure there are many others, but these two, they are really special. I know there's one thing that you cannot stand. Can you tell us first about that, and maybe one thing that you cannot stand, and you drink it, usually in the morning? You don't, but others, yes.
TB and I shared a room at what was it? The
North American
Jewish Choral Festival years ago, and I remember waking up and going, "What is that stink?" Oh, it's coffee. I don't like coffee, and the smell of it I never got used to it. And to this day, I'll turn to Michelle and go something like, something's bad in there's the garbage no, it's coffee. Oh, okay. That's coffee. So yeah, I don't like coffee, but I don't dislike people who like coffee. Don't get the wrong idea. And I do love ice cream. And I remember
a particular flavor.
My go-to is mint chocolate chip ice cream.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure we can be friends anymore. I'm sorry.
It has to be made right. It has to be made right. I'll give you an example. Years ago in Montreal, years ago. So don't compare it to what you have now. Breyers made this fantastic mint chocolate chip ice cream that was white, not green, and they discontinued it. I tried this grocery store, that grocery store, this place, couldn't find it. I contacted headquarters. I went, what's going on? I wrote to them and I phoned them, and they basically discontinued the product. And then when they brought it back, it was never quite the same. So not all mint chocolate chip are made the same. My father grew up on rum and raisin ice cream. I like that. I like Swiss almond fudge by Haagen-Dazs. I like various kinds of ice cream, not just one. And they don't have to be complex, but they have to be really good. And I've been spoiled by, good ice cream over the years. Not any ice cream will do, right? And it gets me upset when I have something that isn't quite great. But
it has to be enough. Yeah. So
enough
yeah.
Quantity.
Yes.
I would agree with that. It has to be enough. Unfortunately, these days I now have to share with a growing family, but as opposed to eating it all myself. But that's okay. There's a place called Salt and Straw here in Portland that's known for their ice cream, and they have like olive oil mixed with I don't know what flavors. That they're really funky, offbeat flavors. The right, and Portland is its motto is keep Portland weird. And they certainly try that with the ice cream, but it works. There's some really interesting flavors out there. And for people who don't know, at my wedding with Michelle, there were 4 speeches. And the one thing that all of them said in common was Eyal's love for ice cream. And everything else was different. So there's that. And French fries, it's hard to explain. It's hard to say who makes the best French fry. You get, so I won't touch that, but I will say, look, I love cooking Moroccan food. I love cooking various foods. I don't know that I'm the chef that David is, but I love cooking that and channeling sort of my heritage. And especially like when you're further removed, I don't know if it's the case with you guys, but when I'm further removed from my, there aren't many Moroccan Jews in Portland, so finding that flavor makes me feel more rooted and grounded, right? It connects me to my roots. So there is that, and that's.
So when you retire in 10 years in Portland, you can open up a Moroccan food truck. That's what they need. There you go.
Well, it would be spelled. For Eyal, it would be spelled Moroccan. Yeah, Moroccan.
Oh, I like that. That's
Moroccan.
Yeah,
my rockin' food, my rockin' truck. That's
a great one. That's good.
That's not bad.
We're going in business.
Yeah, it's great talking to you guys and seeing all these wonderful friends here from I was gonna say Portland, but from Toronto, and I do miss you guys. It's I don't want to say take each other for granted, but when you're in an environment that's as rich as Toronto, where there's so much Jewish music happening, and you know what? That's another thing. I remember Ellie, what's his name? The cantor, Kirschenblum. I was going to say it wrong. Kirschenblum. And mentioning how rich the Toronto Jewish cantorial scene was and how traditional it was.
Eyal, your fingers on the microphone.
Sorry, thank you. Mentioning how traditional and rich the music was in Toronto, and he was right. And being someone from the States, he understood this. At the same time, it's I would imagine it's like cooking, where you want your traditional food and you want to introduce something new as well. If you only have your it's like, so for synagogue music, I was right to say like this: if you want, if all we did was the music of yesterday, the music of 100 years ago, it wouldn't be a synagogue; it would be a museum. It would be a museum, and we need to. A culture is only alive if it's active, if it's evolving, if it is, if there are artists, if there are, a cuisine, it's when there are chefs that are actively making food and coming up with, using the past to inform what their new dishes are going to be like. And I think that one of the opportunities that the States offers is this ability to kind of innovate. And I'm not sitting here composing as many songs as I did in Toronto, but I'm doing different things here and that I wouldn't have done in Toronto. And it's interesting. It's interesting. And I miss sharing those moments with my colleagues like you guys, that you have that rich culture and community of Jewish music and musicians that is lacking here in Portland. So there's a bit of this and a bit of that, that we have.
Great, thank you. I think we're a little over the top of the hour, so I want to be respectful of people's other commitments. But Eyal, I think we speak for everybody on the screen when we say a tremendous thank you to you for being here, for reconnecting with your Toronto Jewish community. And we only wish you and Michelle and the kids all the best in your future endeavors. And always here to welcome you home whenever you come for a visit, and all of that. So great, thank you.
So Eyal, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say goodbye to you now, and I'll call you in 5 minutes. But I'm gonna unmute everyone to say hi to you. Okay? I'm gonna do that for a second. By the way, your microphone, your cell phone is not so good. So something happened there. Here we go. Now you guys can unmute and say something to Eyal. Something nice, I hope.
Hi, Eyal. So good to see you.
Hi, Eyal. Stan
Hi, Eyal.
Solomon here.
Hi, Eyal.
Hi,
Eyal.
Nice to see you again.
You.
Hello, Eyal. Hello, Eyal.
Nice to see you, Eyal.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. I don't want to say any names.
Hello, Eyal.
Hi.
Hello, Eyal.
Ribby,
Nice to see you, Eyal.
Jerry.
Hi,
Nice to see you
Eyal.
all. And there's Rafael saying bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
Hey,
Raphael.
Hi, Raphael.
Eyal, say hello to my cousins Mel and Elaine Ball.
Melon,
Oh, they're
yes,
out there, right?
I will. I remember, of course.
Yes, our cousins here in Toronto.
And oh my gosh, I wish I could say Judy, Barry, Marsha, Cheryl, oui, maman est là-bas, and Sherry and Lillian. Lillian is there, who I miss so much. Who was such a great friend of mine and helped. Oh my gosh, so nice to see all of you.
You too.
Do well. Enjoy the rest of your summer. And if I don't speak to you before, which I probably won't, Shana Tova.
Shana Tova to you too.
Shana Tova.
Right here.
Shana Tova.